13th meeting of the West Memphis Utility Commission to order. The first item is on the agenda is to approve the minutes for the May, got 9th in one place and 10th in the other.
Yeah, it's actually the 9th, that's mine.
Okay. From our May meeting, received them in your packet. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Smith,
Second.
by Mr. Pelkey. Are there any additions or deletions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes passed. Next item is the May safety report.
Good morning, all. Of course, let's go to challenge today.
Spent too much time goofing off before the meeting.
This didn't work?
That'll work.
Yeah, the mouse should work.
There we go. All right, good morning, all. All right, so currently we sit at 176 days without a lost time injury and 177 since our last recordable. And we have goose eggs for the year on incident rate and injuries. It went backwards. Hold on. It's working now. Hey. All right, so monthly safety meeting topic, you know, it's getting hot. We always start hitting this in May. Start talking about heat stress and heat-related illnesses, and this just kind of goes through and explains a little bit. And what interesting point there in that first paragraph that study published by the CDC 2004 to 2018 average of 702 heat-related deaths annually. So it's a serious topic, and it's one that we try to stay on top of every year as we start approaching into the summer and we get more active and people aren't acclimated yet to being out working in the heat. Some of the things you can look for under heat-related illnesses would be heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and then the worst one and the most deadly one would be the heat stroke. Some ways that to prevent that is to acclimate. And it takes a while to acclimate. I mean, sometimes we go immediately into 90-something degree weather with, you know, some heat indexes that we're just not prepared for. It takes a bit to get acclimated, but once you do, you've got to stay hydrated. And there's a little thing there saying the average person sweats roughly 27 ounces to 47 ounces per hour during intense labor. So that's a bottle and a half of our regular waters to almost 3 bottles of water that we sweat out if we're doing some strenuous work activity. So that kind of gives you a bit of an idea of how much you have to replenish. You've got to be drinking water a lot throughout the whole process. And then taking lots of breaks in the shade, getting in the AC when you can, and recuperating at night. So we take it seriously. We have been. We're on top of it. We've not had any heat-related illnesses or any issues in a good while. So we're doing pretty good on that. That's all I've got. Any questions?
We do heat water
Yes.
and rain and stuff.
Everybody has a 1-gallon personal water cooler that they can fill up twice a day, plus the 5-gallon coolers that are on these crew trucks. So there's plenty of water available, and we started the 1-gallon thing during COVID to try to keep from sharing water coolers, and it's worked out good. That you're kind of responsible for your own hydration and carry plenty of water twice a day, or you run by somebody's water hydrant and ask them, hey, can I fill back up when it's 110 outside, you know? So they can stay hydrated.
Any further comments, questions? Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the financial report.
So we're actually, we have a problem with the financial report. It's not a problem with the financial report. Ethel, the utility accountant, she's had a pretty significant medical event in her life, and she's been off work for the last 3 weeks. And Tori is actually in the, she's at the municipal league for the last 3 days. So when she gets back on Monday, she will forward the financial report out to all of you folks so that you'll be able to take a look at it. But it's pretty the same as it always has been, but we don't have the data right now because of that. And Maria's not here today either. She has a meeting on the CIS, a follow-up meeting, but I'll talk about the AMI update. So you can see the numbers there. They're on the electric side. We're almost completely finished with electric. All we have is the commercial meters left on the electric side, and we're making some significant progress on the water meters. So our total water meter count is just over 10,000, so we're about 2/3 of the way done. And we're at 12.5 on our electric meters, is our total meter count. So all that we have left are the commercial meters on our AMI system. So that's a really good thing. We should be fully deployed electric by the end of the year. And it'll take us a little bit longer with the water. So the water issues are mostly, some of these concrete meter boxes are in such bad shape that they can't replace the meter until they get in there and replace the meter box. So that's what's kind of slowed our progress down. So there's having to do a lot of associated projects with it. But we will keep on until we get them on installed.
Almost all the water meters are underground anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like they're hanging on the wall, they just pop them out.
Right, they're all buried either in the parking lot, and the ones that are in concrete cause us problems too, especially when we get in and the meter box is collapsed. Then we'll have to break the concrete out, install the new meter box, and then do the repair, and it causes us a lot of problems. So.
That's not like gas meters, it's sitting above ground.
Right, yeah, they're all below grade, all the water meters are, but they're making really good progress. You can see they're averaging about 700 a month, so it's all contractors doing it. So they're pretty consistent on their installation. So if you do the math right, by the end of the year we should be pretty close. So you can see when they do change a water meter, they'll put a blue cover on it. So the ones that have the blue covers are the AMI meters. So if you're going around town and you see a water meter with a blue cover on it, that's an AMI meter.
Any further questions, comments? Okay, the next item is amended consent order, and you have a copy of that in your packet.
So I wanted to just give the commission a brief update on the consent order. You can see the resolution, so there's a resolution attached to it. The resolution, and I don't think this is just a copy of the consent order, this isn't the actual signed one, but the resolution and the consent order have been signed by the mayor. So we were in front of city council last Thursday, and they approved the resolution and they approved the mayor to sign the amended consent order. And I wanted to just real quick talk a little bit about why we're doing an amended consent order and what that's about. There is a fine associated with it, and I'll talk a little bit about the fine and what's going on there. It seems like a bad thing, right, that we're having to amend the consent order and that we got fined again, but it's really not. So when you enter into a consent order with the state, so basically what our consent order is about is that we've had unauthorized discharges, right? When we have a significant rain event, our wastewater plant is overwhelmed with water, and Paul Holloway doesn't have any choice but to discharge that water right into the Mississippi, right? So basically we're discharging raw sewage into the Mississippi when we have an overflow event. We self-report those to the state, and that was how we ended up under our original consent order, right? So we've engaged in a lot of activities. We've replaced and rebuilt a lot of manholes. We've done what we call point repairs, which the sewer line has pretty good integrity, but there's one section of it that's not in great shape, so we'll do a point repair and we'll replace that one point. And then there's other sewer lines that are just degraded really bad, and we do a cure in place, and that's where we have a company that comes in and they put a lining on the inside of the sewer pipe. We don't have to dig it up, and they align it, and it hardens and it cures and it keeps it from collapsing and returns the integrity to that pipeline. So we're getting ready to put an RFP out for our cure in place program to do that. That's going to be about $6 million to finish that up. Our wastewater treatment plant's about 6 months ahead of schedule. All the clarifiers have been completed, and we're doing really well over there. But we're actually 6 months ahead of schedule, but when we signed the original consent order, we put a date on it, and the state, it took them almost a year to approve our consent, our original plan. And so we were concerned that we weren't going to be able to meet the time deadlines that we had originally established before that year delay was in there. So we asked for an extension, and as part of that extension, they did a records review. They also have an EPA audit coming up. This is the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. They have an EPA audit coming up as well. And they found some discharges that we had reported that were not covered under our original consent order. So once you enter into a consent order with the state, any discharges that you have that are covered under that consent order, you can no longer be fined for those, and you're not held. They understand that you're working on the plant, you're doing all the things that we've agreed that you're going to do, but it's not completed yet, and so until it's completed, you're going to continue to have issues. So we don't get fined for those types of things, and we're not held responsible for those types of things until, once the plan is completed, we will be, but while we're under construction, we won't. But there were some other discharges that weren't covered under the original consent order, and the concern was, for the EPA, was that we would be held financially responsible for those by the EPA, and they would have a problem with it too. So they requested that we sign an amended consent order that covers those additional discharges that weren't covered under the original consent order. We went up to Little Rock, we had a meeting with them, we went through the whole thing, we showed them everything that we were doing. It was a very productive meeting. They basically said to us that we know that you're doing everything that you agreed to do, that you're spending a lot of money, which is why the fine was so low. The fine is $2,750, which is extremely low for an environmental fine. And basically what they said was, because if we don't attach some fine to the discharge, the Environmental Protection Agency will kick it back out and they will fine you. So to make sure that we can control the fine amount and that we don't have any issues, we're going to put that small fine on there. And so that's what it's about. So we went in front of City Council last week, explained the whole process to them. They approved the resolution, which you have a copy of the resolution there, and they approved the mayor to sign the consent order, which it has been signed, and we sent certified mail to the state Monday. This
So
week.
Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, it was early this week, so they should receive it by today, and so then any discharges that we have now at our wastewater plant until construction is completed will be covered under our consent order, and we shouldn't have any future issues. So it sounds problematic, but it's actually a good thing, and they're working with us, and so it went really well. So any questions about the consent order?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So this consent order came about because of discharges that were not covered under the original amendment?
Well,
Or the original consent order?
Correct.
So how did those discharges come about? What drove that?
So what drives a discharge, and I'll offer a discharge, is when we have a significant rain event. And usually it's when we have 2 inches of rain or more.
System can't handle the
This
inflow.
Paul's operation gets overwhelmed down there, and to keep the flood pond, the overflow pond from spilling out onto South Loop, and that he'll discharge, and then it puts the sewage into the river. They just missed it, and when they went back and did their records review, they were like, "Oh, we missed these." And
What's their fault?
Well,
understand, I've been there before. I'm with
So
you.
that's where it was.
I was just,
So it wasn't anything that we did. I mean, we kind of initiated it when we asked for an extension, but
well, but if you hadn't, the EPA probably would have.
They would have fought it on their own.
Everybody would be, yeah. They're
yeah,
not gonna give you a $2,700 fine.
right. So that was why, you know, we wanted to move forward with that and get it taken care of so that we were, from a continuing liability standpoint, we were covered at the end.
Very
Insurance.
good.
Any other questions about the consent order?
Thank you, because I know you worked
Yes.
hard on that.
Yes.
Oh,
Meeting of a bunch of minds. Next item, number 6, water main extension project.
so I'm gonna let Kate talk here in a second about the water main extension project, but I wanted to give you a quick heads up about that we're getting ready to engage in a water main extension. And this is, Kate will kind of talk to you about where it's at, but we have some pressure issues up on the north side of town. And in part of our hydrant testing program, the fire department goes out and they do flow tests on our fire hydrants. And they do that annually. And right now they have an audit with the insurance company. It's an ISO certification that they get, and it helps us with lower insurance rates. But part of the hydrant testing is part of the ISO program. And in the Hopefield subdivision, we don't have enough flow up there. Our water pressure is so poor up there that they have concerns about whether or not they can even fight a fire with the pressure coming out of the fire hydrants. So we have some issues. Southland has pressure issues as well, and it's mostly up there on the north side of town. The problem is the water main that goes up Mound City Road is an 8-inch main, so it's a very small main, and it's a radial feed. It's not looped, it doesn't tie to anything. So it's just an 8-inch main that goes from south of the interstate all the way up to Hopefield. And that puts Southland on a radial feed too. When I say radial, it only feeds one direction. It doesn't tie with anything to help equalize that pressure. So by the time you get to the end of the line where Hopefield is, there's no pressure left. There's nothing there. So the city had gotten some ARPA money, and $2 million of that ARPA money was allocated to do a water and sewer extension over to the mega site for economic development. And one of the things that I advocated for is whoever develops that site, they will be financially responsible for the service going into that site. And so I would like to reallocate that funds to something else. And so what we're doing is Kate has been working on a project that she's going to talk about here to build a main extension to tie into the Hopefield line to equalize that pressure and give additional water pressure to the casino as well as that Hopefield subdivision. Eventually we're going to have to put a tank up there, so in about a year we'll be talking about adding a water tank up there. But this is a short-term fix that'll buy us 4 or 5 years to help the problems up there. The fire department has since revised their standard operating procedure that they have a call in the Hopefield area. They will automatically dispatch. So Marion has a pumper truck, and they will automatically dispatch the Marion pumper truck to that so that they have enough pressure to fight the fire. So we're trying to be proactive until we get this construction completed, because it'll probably be at least the end of the year before we have anything in place. We're going to do it with in-house resources. We've actually had a lot more interest in our water department. We've hired 2 more water guys, and we've gotten, I think, 3 more resumes in. So we're getting a lot of interest in our water and our open water jobs. So once we're fully staffed, we'll do this with internal resources, this project. So with that being said, you want to go ahead and kind of give an overview of what the project is, Kate?
Yeah, we're just planning to tie into the existing 12-inch line over here near, I believe that's Ingram, if I remember correctly. And we want to, is it?
That's a dog.
yeah, but I was trying to point and it wasn't showing up on the screen.
Okay, I was like, the Williams. We're placing the line on the south side but the current line is on the north side. We want to put it on the south side because that's where all the growth is gonna be. So it'll be easier in the long run instead of having to like bore under for fire hydrants when new businesses come in there. Those little red circles you see are just rough ideas of the fire hydrants that we can keep in there. Basically, the plan is to just go from the existing 12-inch line, bore under the road, and then just go across down to 7th Street. And we're just gonna dig a trench, place the pipe, put some chlorinated tablets in there every few feet, and then let it sit, and then flushed through. That'll clean the line, and then we'll cover it up with 4 inches of fill.
So once we have that completed, we'll have a 12-inch main going
Yeah.
over to tie into the 8. Eventually, we'll have to rebuild the 8 to a 12. All our new mains are 12-inch mains now anyway to maintain that pressure. But that will equalize pressure in the north part of town in the short term until we have some more construction up there. And that's when we need to start looking at a new tank up there. The casino has already put us on notice that they're expanding. We've talked about it before, I think, but their plan is to build another 16-story building where the existing dog track is now. And I don't think they've gotten, but that'll significantly impact pressure in that area because that'll significantly increase consumption at that site. Sure.
Question. The green circles, is that sewer? And then the
Actually,
green line?
this green line is our sewer line.
Okay.
These green circles up here are actually our poles.
Oh, okay.
We're trying to decide to place it somewhere between the poles and the sewer, if we can, because that's where our easement is. But we have to have 10 feet of distance between our sewer line and our water main for safety. So we're looking at where we're going to place that exactly.
And that's the sewer lift station up there on that green line?
Yes, sir, that's Dill's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'm just trying to get situated.
So we have the easement right away to place it there. It's just coming up with the logistics, and we have a bill of materials, and we've started the ordering process of the bill of materials. And like I said, we're going to fund it with the ARPA money that we got.
I either heard wrong or something. You said 4 inches of fill?
For Phil.
Feet?
Phil. Yes, 4 feet.
4
Sorry.
feet, okay, I was gonna say, I thought.
I was thinking of the size of the pipe. No,
I either heard wrong or.
no, I said wrong. You're
4
good.
feet
Yeah, it's 4 feet of
deep.
fill.
Okay,
It's gonna be about 4 feet deep,
okay.
4 or 5 feet deep.
Any other questions about that?
Ain't there without water.
Yeah, it's up there in Hopefield, it's a little bit of a challenge for the residents up there. I mean,
It's all the way into the lines.
Yeah.
How long have they been having problems with that?
Probably since it was installed.
And have they been complaining about it?
I haven't heard any complaints about that, but the fire department was who brought it to our attention that they had some significant safety concerns up there. And the casino has had some issues, and we knew about that, and so this kind of solves both of those problems in the short term.
If they
So
put another hotel, it's still,
it'll totally be a problem.
and we can handle this in-house,
Yep.
before the river rises.
With it being an open trench, it's a good opportunity for some of our new employees to get some experience installing. We don't do this type of work a whole lot anymore. Mostly what we do now is service type work where we're repairing main breaks and tapping the main and installing services, stuff like that, fixing the leaks. So this is a good opportunity, relatively low risk for some of our new employees to get out and do some of this work, and there's some different training and stuff that they'll become proficient at. So it's actually a really good thing that we can do it in-house.
Any further questions, comments? Next item is number 7, wildlife power outages and mitigation strategy.
So how many folks were out of power Sunday morning?
coming up.
Our church
Yeah.
was.
We had a significant outage Sunday morning, right around, I think it was about,
8:30 or 9, I think.
yeah, 8:30, but
8:30.
about 8,000,
That's when it went out of church.
Oh, yeah.
about 8,000 residents were impacted by it. And it was a squirrel, believe it or not,
Squirrel.
a squirrel at Hudson Substation got on a switch again at Hudson Substation, almost in the same place where it did it a month ago.
Different squirrel though.
Yeah,
They usually don't survive this.
Well, you said where he did it last month, and I was like,
It was
I want to be
definitely
that squirrel, but from a distance.
it was definitely a different squirrel. Sometimes it's hard to make out that it even was a squirrel.
yeah.
We've done. So this is actually the third wildlife outage that we've had in this many months. So we've had 2 squirrel outages at Hudson, and we've had 1 raccoon outage at Lehigh. The raccoon got up on the breaker at Lehigh, and that one impacted about 2,000 residents. But still, that's a very significant event. There are a lot of strategies that we can undertake. So the first thing that we're doing, so the immediate containment there at Hudson is we went and we took the switches, the same switch that they've gotten into, and we put them out on fiberglass arms so that if the squirrel does get out there again, there'll be some sort of an insulated protection for them, and hopefully it won't cause that large of a significant of an outage in the short term. We're in the process of procuring what we call wildlife protection to put on all of our breakers, and they're plastic covers, and they go over the breaker, the exposed energized parts. The animal doesn't know that they're not supposed to walk there, right? So they'll climb up, and as they transition from the top of the insulator to the energized conductor, once they're on the energized conductor, wholly on it, they're safe, right? They're part of the circuit, and it doesn't cause an outage. It's that transition from the insulator or the pole. In this instance, it was the takeoff structure in the substation, which is grounded. When they transition from that grounded to the energized, they become the path to ground, and that's what causes the outage. Yeah, and it catches them off. It's ugly. Belabor that point. But the result is we have a significant outage event, and so we send crews out there. So, well, it's pretty much an industry standard. So we're in the process of procuring these wildlife protections, and so we will be setting up. We'll be switching out all of our substations, and we'll be installing all these covers on all of our breakers and all of our switches in the future to prevent this type of thing from happening. To put it into perspective for you, at Lehigh, that was a circuit breaker that the raccoon got on the top of, and to wildlife protect all of Lehigh substation, it's $42,000 to purchase and install all of the wildlife protection. To make the repairs after the raccoon got on 1 breaker, it was almost $80,000. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. We probably should have done this a long time ago. I can't speak to why we haven't, but we're going to do it now. So at every substation we have multiple breakers. So at Lehigh we have 4 breakers. Owens we have 4. Gateway we have 3.
Or 2, I'm sorry, 2.
I thought it was 2, and then Hudson we have, that's one, I think we have
There's probably
7 or 8.
10 bays there, but yeah, we're only using.
But we will we'll install wildlife protection on them, and that's when, so regardless of what kind of animal it is, and it doesn't matter, it's, in Colorado we had huge problems with birds, in Florida it was snakes, so this wildlife protection will cover against all of them. It's not a foolproof, we'll still continue to have some of those outages, but we're going to do the best that we can to prevent those outages from happening in the future.
Does it increase or make it harder for us to work on them and reset them?
No, so basically it's just a plastic cover that snaps on, and it gets a zip tie. And so when the crews have to go in there and do their work, they just cut the zip tie, take the cover off, they do what they got to do, and then they just reinstall it. So we will be looking at, if if the bus is in close proximity, so in the substation you have 3 phases, so the bus will come off of the transformer and they run together and then they go into the breaker, and they come out of the breaker, and so that transition into the breaker, that's where these covers go. But if the buses are in close proximity to where like an owl or a hawk, something with a 3 or 4 foot wingspan could bridge across that, we'll have the same problem. And what we'll do is we'll take an insulative tape and we'll cover that bus with the insulative tape so that if they do make an accidental or an incidental contact, it won't go phase to phase. If they're there for a sustained period of time, like if we had a tree limb come on it, then we would have that. But just a quick contact with a bird, it'll keep that from happening. So some of the birds of prey, especially, they call them streamers. I'm going to get a little gross here for a second, but when a bird takes off, they discharge their fecal matter, and it's called, and it's a stream, right? And so what happens is they take off and they do that, and that stream lands on whatever it is, and it bridges across to the energized, and is still connected to the bird, kills the bird, relays the substation, and causes the problem. And so that tape will also help with birds, raptor streamers as well, is what they call it. But so it's a widespread problem across the industry, believe it or not.
It's amazing the kind of things that electricity will travel through.
So yeah, anything that, so you know, pure distilled water, when there's no contaminants in it, will not conduct electricity. But pretty much all water does conduct electricity because of the contaminants in it, and it's pretty much everything's like that. So, any other questions about the wildlife outages or anything like that? So we're actively working on these outages. So what we've been doing over the last month, maybe, when we have an outage that is at the station level, or it impacts 500 customers or more. So our electric department, and same thing with the main break, we haven't had any of them on the water side, but what the electric department is doing now is they'll do what we call a root cause analysis. So they'll do an analysis of that outage, what was the root cause of the outage, right? And then what is the immediate containment or mitigation strategy, and then what is the long-term containment mitigation strategy. What we want to do is we want to not keep making the same mistake over and over and over again, right? And so this is a product of one of those investigations. So how can we prevent this from happening again and keep it from happening again? Ultimately, our goal is to not have to respond to an outage, right? So we do a pretty good job of keeping the lights on, but we can do even better. So it's just a continuous improvement initiative that we'll start to see some significant benefits from it.
Just like tree trimming.
Right.
Exactly. So I don't know, have any of you guys seen Dogwood Tree Service out there working?
Seen them around.
So they're working on the north side of town.
I've seen them around. I haven't seen them while they were working, but I've seen that truck.
That's our new tree trimming contractor, and they're doing most of the manual stuff. They were the low bid. I was really impressed with their presentation. We brought them in and had them do a presentation because we hadn't used them before. We were concerned about their safety qualifications, and when they responded with their safety personnel. They brought all their job hazard analysis, their tailboard, their safety program, presented all the safety program. They provided references, which we followed up on and talked to them. They're actually headquartered out of Olive Branch, Mississippi, so they're local. They're working for some cooperatives and municipals over in Mississippi that highly recommended them, and so we've been satisfied with them thus far. So they're moving along pretty good. We think that we'll probably be able to do. We budgeted a little. We didn't know where the bids were gonna come up, and based on where their bid came in, we had a little bit extra money in the budget, so we're gonna go ahead and spend that this year and trim more than we had planned. We're gonna spend it on trimming, but we're gonna go ahead and trim more than we had originally planned because we have the money in the budget to do that based on their prices.
That pays off.
Yeah.
Any other comments? analysis of street light poles and pay structure.
Yeah, this one worked out that I'm the one doing most of the talking today, so sorry about that, but wanted to give you a heads up. So we have a team that's working on, can you advance it one more, Brett?
Well, I don't know what it is, let me see. It's just,
No, so you guys all have in your packet, I guess it didn't, so you have in your packet, so the form that you have there right now is when a customer comes in to get a private light, that's the form that Terry's team has in the billing office that we sign the customer up for the private light. So you can, the reason I wanted to include it is you can look at what some of our private light rates are. And I want to talk to you about a little bit about what some of our actual costs are, and we're not doing a very good job of covering our costs at all. So you can see what our rates are. So for a residential light, a 100-watt light, it's $5 a month for a light. And that's the cost of the light and the electricity included, right? Our new LED lights for a 100-watt LED light, they're $126 now compared to where they used to be about $40 when they were the high-pressure sodium. So the cost has significantly increased. It helps us in the long term from a maintenance standpoint, right? Because a bulb on a high-pressure sodium would last about 2 to 3 years on average, where an LED will get about 10 years out of that. And it's pretty much maintenance free. We don't have to do a lot with it for that 10-year period. So once we put it up, we don't have to go back, but there's a higher upfront cost.
But it uses less energy too. right?
That was where I was headed next, and it uses a lot less energy, so it's more cost effective for us to provide service to that light. If you look at the commercial lights, a 400 watt, so it's $23 per month for a 400 watt, so it's significantly more power used, right? So it's 400 watts versus 100, and that light costs $542. So it's significantly more expensive. You look at our pole charge of $1.60 per month. A pole costs us $440 for a new pole. And so what we have a team, and we're looking at updating these rates. So I just kind of wanted to let the commission know that we're actively looking at this. The electric department right now is out doing an audit on all of our private lights. We have about 400 private lights on our system right now. When a customer when they move out or they move away and they cancel their account, we don't do a very good job of going out and disconnecting or taking that light down. So most of those lights are still in service and nobody's paying for them now at this point. So we're losing a significant amount of funds there. And we haven't done a good job of keeping track of our records, so we have a lot of locations where our records say that we have one private outdoor light. We're billing for one and there's 5. So we're in the process of doing an audit right now to determine what we actually have installed out in the field. We will correct and true up our billing systems then, that we're actually billing for what's out there. So that's the first thing, and so electric department's working on that right now, and then we're going to be revising our rates. Well, I don't have any numbers to give you on the revised rates yet, but I wanted to just give you a heads up that that's coming, so that you talking points as folks start asking about stuff, or when it comes out, you'll know that's the process, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. Have any of you guys gotten any feedback from neighbors, constituents about the water meters charges for the irrigation meters?
Not yet.
Not yet. It went into effect, when we start billing, Terry, was May 1st, was the first one we billed. So the ordinance on the water meters, for those of you that weren't here last week, so the ordinance is pretty clear that we charge a meter charge for a water meter. But at some point in time, a policy was instituted here at the utility that if there's no usage on the irrigation meter, we wouldn't charge the meter charge for that. Like I said, the ordinance is very clear. And my position on that was that the utility has to pay for the meter. We have to maintain the meter, so we have costs associated with that, and then the service is available, right? If nobody wants to turn the irrigation on, that's good, that's fine, but we're still maintaining and providing meter service. So the ordinance is very clear that any meter, there's a meter charge. So starting on May 1st, we started billing irrigation customers with no usage a meter fee if they have a meter installed. We haven't had, well, I haven't gotten a lot of them to me. I don't know how many of you had.
A lot.
A lot of them have gotten to Terry unhappy about that or questioning that. You know, it's come up in city council and I've talked to the council members and I said, look, my position is we have an ordinance, which is city law, and we're gonna follow that ordinance to the letter, right? And if the ordinance says that we're gonna do this, that's what we're gonna do. Now, folks with irrigation meters, they do get a financial benefit for having an irrigation meter because we do not charge them sewer rates on an irrigation meter. So on a regular water meter, the way we calculate our sewer rates, it's 132%. So whatever your water usage is, we charge 132% for sewer on that. And on an irrigation meter, we do not charge a sewer charge for it. So there is a financial benefit for our customers that have separate meters for their irrigation meters. But we're gonna not, we ceased the policy of not billing for the meter charge on the irrigation meters. There were some things that came up. There were some electric meters we weren't billing for as well, and we stopped doing that as well. So all meters, we're gonna, basically, on our rate structure, we're gonna follow the ordinance, is where we're at.
Well, if you have an irrigation meter and you're not using it, can we remove it?
We can remove it. That's one of the other things that we have a team working on. So right now, if we remove the meter, the only thing that we have is if somebody decides they want to put a new meter in, is there's a tap fee. And the tap fee to tap the main is $750, somewhere around there. And we're working on putting together an interim charge, what we would call a reconnect charge. So if the main is tapped, right, and we just go to remove the meter, we can cap the pipe right at the meter, but the main is still tapped. So it's not really fair to charge someone $750 for a tap. That's the only thing we have to do right now. So we need an intermediate charge in there as a reconnect fee. So then we go out and we just reconnect and put the meter in, and then, but to answer your question, yes, but the customers need to look at, if they're going to use it again in the summertime, they need to look at what is going to be most cost effective for me. Do I want to have it out and pay the $750, or do I want to just pay the meter charge?
A lot.
I'm sorry?
A lot of water.
Yeah.
A lot of water.
A lot of water. So you may hear some about that. So May 1st was our first month that we did that, and June 1st was our first month that we billed with the new water rates under the new updated ordinance that was approved. And you guys approved it, and then it went to city council, and they approved it. And so there was a little bit of a delay. It was scheduled to go out May 1st, but it didn't get published. And so we had to ask for another month extension so the clerk could publish it, and now it's been published, and so it did go into effect June 1st. We'll be billing under the new rates on June 1st. So any questions, comments about the private lights? So really what we're after there is we're not trying to make any money, we're just trying to make sure that we cover our costs, because we're not covering our costs right now.
Anybody have any comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So
Who's that? Felton, second? Second, Scarborough. All in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank all of you for attending.